Hi, everybody, and welcome to our virtual book launch. My name is Sarah, and I am the lead creative instructor here at Second Renaissance Arts. Thank you all for joining us this evening in our celebration of The Candle Regaining Strength by Samuel Rubinstein. I hope that you all have a drink because this is a party. So without further ado, I am so excited to introduce the author of this collection of poems, Samuel Rubinstein, my very dear friend. I have known him since the dawn of time. He is one of the only people in my life who has made me laugh for over a decade. And he has published his first collection of poems, A Candle Regaining Strength, which you should buy on samsdumbface.com for $15. It is a great collection of poems that covers multiple topics on many heavy things that we don't really talk about in writing, and also with hints of humor in it. So without further ado, Samuel L. Rubinstein is a writer and performer from New Jersey. His works include videos, poetry, comedy, live performance, and everything else in between. He is the man of all of the ideas. His work often deals with themes of growth, connection, and mental health. His work often delves into the bizarre, the irrelevant, and just plain strange. He is also one of the most funniest men I've ever met in my life. So, without further ado, my very good friend, Samuel Rubinstein, come to the stage, my dear.
Hello!
Hello! I'm so happy that you're here, and I'm so happy that we're doing this.
Me too. This is weird.
This is wild. I mean, this is like, decades in the making. Like, we met a long time ago, back in the good old B-Dale days, in a creative writing club where I was just writing, love poems, and they were all terrible. So,
yeah.
What were they about? Unrequited love?
They're all unrequited love poems. But they were all. It wasn't even the unrequited. It was the amount of like cliches that was just like, you can't say that. Why? Someone already said that. Who? Literally everyone. Everyone has said that.
I'm the first one to say that. Were you kidding me?
I'm an original. No, you can't.
I'm an artist. This is art, Sam.
The way he touches me, I feel the electricity run down my back. Sarah, everyone said that.
I mean, I probably didn't even feel that.
Shelley
I probably didn't even feel that though. Like, it probably was a lie. But not about my poems. We're not talking about my shitty poems tonight. We're going to be talking about your great poems tonight.
My shitty poems.
I wasn't going to say that. They're all crappy. Don't buy the book. I'm totally kidding.
Hello to the people watching. How's it going?
Yes. So first, I think we're going to do a short interview. And also for everybody watching, if you have any questions for Sam, we are going to have a live Q&A at the end. So please type in your questions in any of the comments, because we are both on Facebook and we're also on YouTube. And then we will be publishing this also on our Instagram. So if you are one of our many appreciated followers on our social media, and you are not watching this now and you're watching it later, you can also send us some, DMs or messages or whatever they, those kids call it these days.
It's important to know, like, if your question doesn't relate to the book, I'll still answer it. Like, if you're wondering about like cryptocurrency and what to invest in, like,
and what's your favorite color?
Purple. I'll answer anything. Listen, I'm an open book.
I mean, literally.
I'm going to have that sticker thing go up and down like multiple times throughout. So
yes, so please, and also if you are new to Second Renaissance, and please follow us on all of our social media and keep an eye on all for our events that are coming up. Maybe just a quick plug. Our summer classes are open for registration. We're going to be doing a Fiction 1, Introduction to Fiction, and Fiction 2, which is a advanced fiction course. I will be teaching both. And so if you are interested in taking any classes, it is Yay, Mom. Thanks. Um, she's been a big fan since the beginning of time.
Thank
So,
you.
so they are open for registration on secondrentarts.com. And if you have any questions about that, please shoot us an email. So why don't we dive into the book, Sam? Why don't we talk about it? I mean, this is your first collection of poems. I've been listening to you read poems for I feel like my entire life, but it's okay. I've enjoyed every one of them, even the ones that did not get published in this book.
The ones that we don't talk about anymore
Ones
because
we
they're
don't
not
talk
good, but they
about,
didn't age well.
the ones from your eighth grade notebook.
Oof.
Uh, ooh, throwbacks.
I tried to like publish one of them in this book and it got swiftly kicked out.
Oh yeah. Oh
Yeah,
man.
there was one where I was like, this holds up, it's funny, and they're like, no, nope,
No.
we can't do that.
Eighth grade Sam was, you know, it was a
Not
time.
good.
It was a
It was
time
a
to be
very
alive.
good.
So, what was the inspiration for A Candle Regaining Strength? I mean, I was when you told me that it was going to be called A Candle Regaining Strength, I was very surprised because it's very unlike you. Like, I was like, oh, this is a very serious title, and this is you are not a serious. I mean, you are a serious guy, but you have you identify being a comedian. So I was expecting this like very jokey, because Sam's Dumb Face, that's a good plug. Also, check that out as well. samsdumbface.com. Um,
Samsungface.com.
it's great. It makes you smile every time you get on the homepage and it's just Sam's face. It's fabulous. And so yeah, so I was surprised that it was such a serious looking book, given it's you. So if
Um,
you can dive into that, like I would love to hear about that.
so the book was something that I had been wanting, and it was a lot of what was going on during the pandemic. I started writing it um, during the pandemic. Even the older poems that are in here got a fresh coat of paint um, from the lens of quarantine and from this feeling of just kind of hopelessness, these ups and downs that I think a lot of people went through these past few years. And so this whole book kind of was in many ways my I need to do something during this because if not, I will go insane. When I started writing this, I was living in a studio apartment teaching from home. And so there would be multiple days where I was just in the same room all day, every day. Um, and that's not good for your mental health. Fun fact, like being
No.
alone in a single room for weeks on end is not great for you. Um, and at the same point in time, pretty much since I was little, I would refer to myself as like an optimist. And I always think that like things have to get better. And if you are willing to look for it, the smallest thing can be what grows into something good, which is where this title comes from and where the title piece comes from. This idea that right now everything is dark, but somewhere off in the distance is like the flicker of a single light. And if that's what you can hold on to, that's it. Like
Yeah.
something good has to come.
Yeah, exactly. And I that's really interesting that you kind of took I know a lot of poets and writers were having trouble during the pandemic writing. I was not one of those people. But I know a lot of writers did. They were like, I can't write because I'm not going out and living. And I find that really interesting that you were like, okay, so I'm going to see the good of this and like take this time and put these coats of paint on your work that you had. I know you always have an arsenal of poems ready to go at all times, but
It was a very interesting experience. And the thing that I think was really important to me was to kind of highlight these ups and then these downs, these rises and then steep declines that we were going through. Because I think anyone who's like, oh, yeah, I went through the pandemic completely unfazed, unscathed, I'm the same, but
no.
you're lying. Like, it's not true. No one did. And so I wanted that, but I also wanted it to end. A lot of pandemic poetry ends on this feeling of loss. And I think for me, that's never been the way that I want to approach my writing. And so I wanted it to have this kind of hopeful idea that, like, from start to finish, you get this whole up and down, but end on this up. I want it to end on an up because I'm a sucker for a happy ending. I'll be honest.
No, I mean that's always okay to be a sucker for happy ending, but I find that really interesting that you said that you highlight the ups and downs because the tones of these poems go up and down. And we were just talking about this a couple minutes ago, how it's a literary whiplash. And one of your students had said that, and I thought
Yeah.
that was like really interesting because I also felt that way because I was like, wait a minute, like the tone is like switches so quickly. It goes from something happy to something so like like a tea party with death, for example,
Yeah.
and it's such a serious matter. And you also add these like whimsy poems in there, so it doesn't just feel like death on death on death on death on death. But I also find it weird that you didn't write any COVID poems in this. Really,
I
there
think
was, and I thought that's like cool. That it was just like, all right, like let me look at COVID from a different angle. So like maybe if you want to like talk about that a little bit.
so. There, I think the idea of a COVID poem, everyone wanted to be COVID like direct, and I'm not. Um, when it comes to like my idea of, I do have poems that I consider COVID poems in there. A poem like "The Well" is very much related to COVID, where it's this: we are stuck here. What do we do other than wait? And then at the same point, the poem that goes right after, which is "Running Dry," is we can wait, but it may not get better. Or the poem "Watching Fires" is literally how I was feeling during the pandemic, where it's here's everything around us on fire, and here's me in an apartment watching it from a distance, just stuck, feeling stuck. And there's a few poems like that where I think you have this very much COVID poem that doesn't say COVID is this. We know. And I think if it highlights a different aspect of what COVID did, which is really isolated people. Um, and I think that that is one of the scariest parts of COVID for people that I don't think people are ready to talk about is you had people who were doing things every day. Like me, I love to keep busy. Every day was going out, finding something to do, seeing people. And then suddenly I was alone. And I think when we talk about COVID poems, it's not just the direct impact of the disease itself, but the social impact of what it did.
Yeah.
And that forced people to kind of really look at their lives in a different way.
Absolutely. Yeah. If you think about it, I mean, I know both of us, we are workaholics and we just like to go, 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 go. And even though we are in the isolation, we were still trying to do our best
Yeah.
to go, go, go in the confines. And I know you live by yourself. So like, you weren't even like with any kind of family or anything like that. And you got something out of it. So like
Yeah.
that's the candle that regained strength was you in a sense. So like that's so beautiful.
Oh
Oh,
no,
that was lovely.
it's a metaphor.
Yes. So I also want to talk about the visual aspects of this book. I find that really interesting that because you don't see this very often. I mean, you do now. I feel like in poetry, there and even memoir and even other like fiction, they're adding visual art into it to integrate these two sorts of art and media into these books. But I was curious why you picked the artist that you did and what style were you going for?
So, I'll start by saying I grew up on Shel Silverstein. Like that, I believe that poetry has a visual aspect to it that you get whether it's a live show, whether it's the illustration. Poetry has a visualness that I think is really important. But one of the other things that I really wanted to do was highlight multiple artists and see how they would interpret a poem. And for me, that was the goal. So I'd see who was interested. I would ask friends, people who I knew were making art, um, and see what a poem would bring out of them. And so I think one of my favorite examples of this is there's a poem called Monster. And when I wrote it, what I was expecting back. The artist, by the way, is Rob Kroll.
Rob Carolla.
If you've not seen it, it's a phenomenal piece of art that he did. And Rob and I are friends, and I gave it to him, and I was expecting like a monster under the bed thing, and instead he took this kind of idea in a totally different direction. Um, and so for me, that was really the big thing, was I wanted to highlight different artists, and I still want to do. I think that's one of the best parts of this whole process, has been able to be like, look at these people, look at what they do. Um, and so yeah, that's really where it came from, and it I think that's really so important.
Yeah, I really think that too. You're not only celebrating yourself in this book, you're also celebrating the community that we are so fortunate to be a part of, and one of the turning aspects of it. We're an integral part of the community because we celebrate other art, not just writing. And I really enjoyed how the different styles of art
Each
are in here
each
too.
artist did something very different, and I think they highlighted different aspects of the poem that I wasn't always expecting. And it starts right from the beginning. With my editor Brielle wanted to take the introduction, said, I have this image of a mouse on a stage, and this kind of mousy soft thing that's very humble coming out. And she took it and she ran with it, and I loved it. And then you have something like, um, you know, Sarah Kelly, who um, did the poem for
Chasing the
right there.
sun,
Yep,
right?
that one for Chasing the Sun, and incorporated the actual poem into it.
That
And I
was
thought that was
beautiful.
beautiful.
Yeah.
The way that she did is amazing, and she was one of the first ones to send stuff in. Um, Sam Benvezuto did, I think, two, and she cranked them out in like 10 minutes, and it was like I sent them to her, and within the same day I got two back. One is the poem for Marilyn, the other one is for Why I Edit. And Why I Edit, I think, is this very beautifully abstract visual, and I love it. So there's a lot of them, and I think
Yeah.
that I always want to see more visual connection between art and poetry.
It's really about the collaboration and
Yeah,
celebrating how, these are acrostic then, and it just kind of
yeah,
becomes like that, the visual kind of goes with, especially like even Feeding the Dead, where it's back to back. And so you're like really looking
yeah,
at, what two artists are sort of talking about, having two sort of the same but different conversations about the
yeah.
same work. And I find that really inspiring and interesting. But to piggyback off of that, you cover a lot of different topics in this collection. And I know we were talking prior that, although there are some silly poems like You, Me, and My Pontiac Aztec, and that's a great poem, but there's also this underlying deep messages throughout this that I was surprised by while reading this, because I've always seen you as the funny guy. And although I know that you are a deep, sensitive human who I care about deeply, I just was really surprised how much these poems not only resonated with me, but I know you've said that you've gotten a lot of really positive feedback on, how these poems can resonate to a lot of different people going through a lot of different issues in their life. So I thought you could maybe touch on that and what were your
I
inspirations and things like that.
um I think so. I'm gonna be real candid. When I started this, I didn't want to half-ass it, and I didn't want to kind of not put in what I thought was going to be good. And unfortunately, that meant cutting poems that I really do enjoy, um, uh, but also at the same point in time, kind of acknowledging where certain strengths were. Um, so with this, when it comes to the themes and the choice and the topics, I wanted a like I said, I wanted that high and low, but I wanted it to be real. I think that one of the things that's so important with writing is a lot of times people go big, and I'll do that when I'm at a show. I'll do that when I'm, but at the same point in time, you need a realness to it. You need there to be a depth, even if it's a fiction piece, and that requires being willing to go to the harder places, even for the funny poems. Um, People, whenever I perform, my ADHD isn't cute. Uh, you get laughs. You get laughs at it because you get this relatable feeling, and then you get the actual
Buddy.
punch of it, and you get the understanding. And because the truth is, so life is not, this funny thing, sad thing, funny thing, sad. The sad thing is the funny thing. And so if you want to get true humor, you need to get true sadness.
Yeah.
Uh, and so I wanted this. I wanted that. I wanted this real, honest depiction of everything that was going on, with the highs and the lows and the weird in betweens. I think that for me was so important in it. Um, if it's not real, it's not gonna it's not gonna feel real. Um, I don't want to be mean, but I hate when you go to a show and you see a poet and they're talking and you can tell they have no emotional connection and they're just going through the motions. Um, like even if it, like, again, it may be fiction. My favorite example is A Tea Party with Death is a full fiction piece.
The best one, though, I think.
But I
Love that
have the
film.
emotional connection to it. I wanted to get into that feeling, especially now when empathy is not people's strength.
No.
So that for me is really what I wanted to hit on. I wanted it to be real. And as a person, we are not funny, sad, happy. That they blend.
Yeah, absolutely. And
I
I feel like
rambled on way too much to get to that,
no,
but like,
that was so intuitive, and I really am inspired by this because we talk about grading and we talk about how we integrate multiple topics into one collective, either fiction piece, nonfiction piece, poem, and it's sometimes not compartmentalized. You can't compartmentalize your feelings. It's just not how it works.
right.
You have to blend these things together in order for them to be genuine. And I think that the poems, not only do they do that individually on their own, but they do that as a collection. And it goes from like even the introduction, it's like, yeah, like you're gonna laugh and there's ice cream here, and there's cars and probably your best poem ever, but there's also gonna be some heavy stuff in here, and like I just want you to be prepared for it. And I think that even this introduction kind of sets the tone for the rest of the whole book, because that's really what it is. There's ice cream in here.
I mean, there is.
There is ice cream
Um,
in here. uh
so I will give credit. So I will give credit where credit is due. My editor Brielle really helped kind of organize this flow and like really make sure we got the visual, like the whiplash that I was going for, and that introduction was essentially the last thing that we had, and I did it specifically as I want a poem that has no character to it, no, I want a genuine thank you. Um, and you get that. And the poem itself has its highs and lows. It ends on a very kind of like somber line, um, which I'm gonna read later, but it's wherever you are now, I'm happy you're here. And on its own, that line is like wherever you are in the world, I'm glad you're here. But at the same point in time, what I want it to mean, what it does mean is I'm glad you're here. Wherever you are in your life, wherever you are mentally, physically, emotionally, you're here. And that's what I really want this book to be. And so if you read only one poem, please read more than one, but if you read only one poem, the introduction will tell you exactly what to expect.
I think that's, and also I'm glad that you're here as well. Ew. So
Oceans.
ew, emotions, gross. So also by trade, you are also a middle school teacher, and I know that you are a man of many hats. But you being Mr. R is probably I would say maybe your favorite, maybe not. I don't know, but
Depends on the day.
it depends on the day. Yeah. So while I know you were teaching while writing this book, like you said, uh, has your students inspired any of these poems, and have you got to have them read any of your poems, and what are their opinions? I'd love to hear that.
Oh gosh. Okay, so this is wild because I'll start with there is one poem in here that is specifically dedicated to a student. There is a whole collection that this job has inspired me to start working on, which I've already started called Teachers, Students, and Other Mistakes I've Made, which is just kind of a full dedication to the kind of aspect of teaching, and it's not just in class, but like the idea of teaching and what does it mean to be a student, what does it mean to be a teacher as a person. And so that one has a lot more of it. This one has one that immediately stands out, which is kind of this idea of like how can you help someone that does not want your help because asking for help is hard. That poem means a lot to me. As for my students, so when I got this, I had a few students who were like, "Oh, well, we like it." And then when those students had it, it was, "Mister, how come we don't have the books?" And then so all of my students pretty much have my book, and all of them have read it, and their parents have read it,
Oh,
and it has
that's great.
been a really enjoyable experience. And what it did that I'm very happy with is it showed a lot of my students, especially the ones who are a bit more on the anxious side about what they want to do in life, that they can do it. And it sparked the start of our our creative writing and poetry club. And I think my proudest moment was one of my students. They had a poem that they showed me, and the first line was, "Love grows like a candle regaining strength."
Oh,
And like I might cry, but I'm not. I hope not. But like
oh,
as a writer and as a teacher, that's everything you want. That is a student hearing what you're saying, internalizing it, and holding it. And like those are the kinds of things that I think mean the most. Is there's poems in there that my students go like, "This is amazing." Like we said earlier, one of my students noticed the whiplash of this whole book, and that was their big thing for them was these highs and then these lows. And we talked about it. My students asked, like, why does this happen? And I said, well, think about life. Like, are you always happy? Are you happy then? So like, and we got kind of this discussion about it. um I had a student who lost a sibling to cancer,
oh,
and
wow,
that hit them like a ton of bricks.
wow.
uh and so like, again, they all took something different away from it, but I'm happy that they all took something from it. Um, so that's my feeling.
And that you're an inspiration to them. That must have been that made that. Oh my goodness! Even I didn't even write the poem, and my heart's full.
Yeah, it was. I will tell you I was just like, all right, we're doing this today. Let's talk. How's it going, kiddo? And like we went through it, and we did a day of just reading and analyzing it and taking apart like what is the message, what's the moral. And a lot of kids pulled at different pieces, and that was what made this whole thing seem pretty special.
And I think that's great that you are including your own work into your classes, because then you inspire your students to, hey, like if I can do this, you can too. And I know that you also incorporate other poets in the poetry community into your classes as well, which I think that's just so inspiring. And you bring poets into your classes and show your students that, this is possible. And, I know that, we've known each other for a long time, and I didn't have that in my high school or anything, but I know when we went to Brookdale and we got to meet those writers and our professors that, said to us, like, this is possible. And now here we are. It's so inspiring that you're doing this at an earlier stage of the game. So by the time these students do get to college, they could be creative writing majors, or they could be English majors, and feel like, hey, I had this teacher that was the best. And like
Yeah.
he, and that's awesome. And you're
I
going to be that teacher. Like that's amazing. And I'm
I
proud.
like I will say my favorite and also least favorite part of all of it is like some of them are better. Like some of them are just objectively better than me at it. Like I have students that are writing lines that I'm just like, I wish I was that talented in 8th grade. Um, I had a student do 3 haikus in a row, all about period cramps. Like that was what she wrote because she had to do the assignment. She was in a lot of pain, and there's a line in it where it's pretty much takes up the entire haiku, where it's my body explodes from the inside, a gift from my mother.
Wow.
I can't do like that's so good. That's such a good line.
But you're the one who is, you're rising these lines to the surface, and you're giving them the space to express themselves unapologetically. And you should be proud of yourself for doing that. And I think that it's really inspiring for educators. I mean, I teach these classes, and I also, am an educator as well. And giving these students the opportunity to feel fearless in their writing goes beyond just being a teacher, and like it's being a creative mentor in a way. And I think that it's amazing, and that this book is a tool in your classrooms, and that's really great. So I think I just have time for one more question. If anybody has any questions throughout the reading, or even while we're talking, please feel free to comment below in any of our things, or send us any emails or any direct messages if you don't feel comfortable putting in the comments as well.
I like asking questions. I'm very much an open book. So like ask me questions. It
Literally.
doesn't have to be related to the book. Literally ask me anything. It's my favorite game to play with my students. Ask me anything. Ask me about cryptocurrency. Ask me about like the state of politics right now. I don't know. Do whatever you want. Ask a question. I'll answer it. How do I feel about soup? Good most of the time.
You like soup.
I do.
You do like soup. This is a trending thing that you didn't you do like a video of you making soup?
I did. It is
You did make a video.
ironically my most viewed video for some reason.
It's your TikTok, isn't it? You made soup.
It is my TikTok. Like, how is that it? Like, come on.
Yeah, you making soup. So just my final. I actually have two final questions. So while we were talking prior, you said that there's going to be a second edition of A Candle Regaining Strength coming out. Anne wants to know what kind of soup you like.
I was about to put this up. The answer to that question as to what kind of soup, a lot of different kinds of soup. My mom has like a magazine where she just makes different soups, and I am always impressed by them. This year I learned to make chicken noodle. This year I learned to make chicken noodle soup from scratch, and I'm still impressed that I didn't mess that up. So
look at you. You are a chef and a poet. Ladies, I'm kidding. Sorry, Sydney. Love you. So
ladies, I am taken and depressed.
Sydney's a delight. So A Candle Regaining Strength has a second edition coming out. And I'm just curious why you want to redo the book if the book is so good on its own first. first go round?
So for me, there were small things that I want to fix. I want to make uh, I want to make certain changes to the images. Um, I want to make certain changes to the images, but also I want I want more. It's gonna you're gonna laugh, but I think there's space for more art in this. I had a friend, um, samsdumbface.com. I'm just gonna answer
Yeah,
that question.
samsdumbface.com.
Samsdumbface.com. Samsdumbface.com. Samsdumbface.com. Um, so um so I almost completely lost it. So we had one poem that is, I think, one of my favorites to have in this book, A Tea Party with Death. The art came in for it a little bit late. We got it after the book came out. The artist did a phenomenal job. Shout out to Cameron. Hopefully they see this when we post it on Instagram. Um, but they did a phenomenal job, and they're the same people who did the comic for Layla all those years back.
Oh,
And so for
Layla.
their
Best
writing,
poem.
for their art to like change and grow for me was so cool. Um, there's art for Pontiac Aztec that we couldn't fit in that I
There's a
think
little Pontiac Aztec
deserves.
on the cover, by the way. We
There
just
is
want
a
to like
Pontiac Aztec.
share
Yes, there
that.
is. There's a
But I
Pontiac
didn't
Aztec on the
notice
cover.
that.
There's the tea between the Pontiac Aztec and the teapot, the mountains and the water. There's a lot of references on the cover that I very clearly wanted.
I love the
And
Pontiac
Brielle
Aztec.
again
I
did an
did not notice
amazing
this when
job
I bought the book.
illustrating it.
I
Um,
did not notice it. I was like, "Are you kidding me? There's a Pontiac Aztec on the cover of this book." I was like, "Really?" And I laughed out loud. And I was like,
um, I want there to be this very much artistic aspect of it. And so if you are watching this and maybe you make art, hit me up. I have like 2 poems that I would love to get filled in. And yeah, so that's for me the thing. I don't want to change the poems themselves, but I want the art to be able to shine through a little bit more. The book is $15 at samsdumbface.com. Um, the new edition will probably come out around the end of the year. We still got time with this one, but I've already started collecting some new art, um,
"Oh,
which is
great!
awesome. I think it's really cool.
I'm excited
So
to
yeah,
see it." So why
I
don't
am
you?
too.
Because um, I would love to hear some of the poems from A Candle Regaining Strength read if you are wanting
Okay,
to do that.
I would like to.
And if anybody has questions while he's reading, please feel free to um, put them in the comments. And then if we have a few, we'll probably have a few minutes after the reading, and then we'll post. We can answer. Sam can answer them. So take it away, Sam.
Okay, so I'm going to start with the introduction. Hi there. I listen. I don't mean to bother you, but I just thought I should come by and say, hey, thanks for thanks. Oh, you're right. Okay, here we go. Hi there. I don't mean to bother you, but I just thought I should come by and say, hey, uh, thanks for taking the time to read this strange little thing. This brief but important venture into my brain, it really means a lot. Now, I don't want to keep you too long, but this book has many things, and I think you'll like it. We've got ice cream and cars and my best poem ever. But we also have some serious stuff, like growing up and fear and a bit of sadness. I think all I'm trying to say is I wrote this book for you, and I hope you like it. Wherever you are, I'm really glad that you're here now. Thank you. So that is our introduction, art illustrated by Brielle Elise. Um, did you hear about the sun in the sky and the boy who tried to catch it. You see the way he ran west towards the way it sets? Like a madman, this boy ran every day, and we watched him try. But with the way he moves, I'd go and bet that this little boy will one day fly. This poem's called Wanted. It is a wanted ad. Um, it is always available. Wanted. Friend for the end of the world. No strings attached. I'm just lonely. Thank you. Um, this next poem is called Talk Too Much. I get told I talk too much, and quite frankly, I don't see it. I personally also don't think that phrase fully fits here. Like, obviously, I don't see it because, like, you don't normally see sounds or the vibrations that create noise. Well, unless you're like, you have like ridiculous good eyesight, or maybe if you had like echolocation, like a bat or a dolphin. And last I checked, I was neither a bat nor was I a dolphin. So I don't really see how that kind of phrase fits here, like a puzzle piece. A metaphorical puzzle piece, like obviously, the kind of puzzle piece that understands the process of sound and could determine whether I tend to use it in excess or uh, simply to say I talk too much. Thank you. I'm gonna go a little bit ahead. Um, this poem is called "Why I Edit," and it is dedicated to anyone who writes anything ever. When we were kids, the sky was filled with cotton candy clouds that only ever seemed too far out of reach. Like God hoards the good stuff for himself, and the rest of us had to be content with the mere miracles of man. I don't look for masterpieces anymore, but I still edit. Like I want something to be here when I leave. I want form and function, steel wool and cotton swabs. I want mountains that look like they're just waiting to be climbed. I want all of this, but can't find a job or don't want a job, and stillness seems inevitable. But more than anything, so does change. I crave change, a moment, a breath, and so I edit, not for a masterpiece, but for cotton candy clouds and more than mere miracles. Thank you. Um, so this entire book is dedicated to my parents, and my family in general has been very supportive of me. And so I wrote them a poem during the pandemic, and this is called All the Things That I Could Do. If I put just a bit of effort, I could fracture myself into a giant jigsaw and give it to my brother to figure out. Or I could sculpt my skull into a vase filled with my mother's favorite flowers just for her to hold on to. Or I could record my dulcet tones and screaming rings into sweet songs for my dad to sing on his way to work. I could toss my mind over and over into new machinations and mysteries and hope everyone likes what they get out of me. However, more than anything, what I really want to do is roll myself onto a piece of paper, press it flat for the world to read, and sign it saying, "Yeah, it's just about me." Thank you. All right. So this next poem is really important to me. People always ask me questions about my life. They always do. They say, "Sam, you're a writer. How do we end world hunger?" They say, "Sam, you're a writer. What do we do about the crisis in Ukraine?" Sam, what do you think about, all the stuff in the world? And I think those are all really important questions. The most common question I get is, Sam, what's your favorite car? I think it's important that we talk about this, okay? My favorite car is the best car. I want to tell you a little about it. My favorite car is the Pontiac Aztec. And I know what you're wondering. Why? Well, let me explain. This car is an artistic masterpiece. It is not a good car. It's absolute garbage. Um, and I think it's really important that you know that. So let me explain. I'll give an example. Okay? Um like Like, look at this. Look at this thing. It was made from 2001 to 2005, and it is hot garbage. It did not function as a car. It looks like how a 6-year-old would draw a car. Like, we're not far off here. It looks like a really bad hat that Optimus Prime wears to his stepson's baseball game. Like he walks up, "Hey there, Timmy. Great job today." "Thanks, Mr. Optimus." "Call me Dad." "No." It just like cars are supposed to look intense from the front. They're supposed to look serious. It doesn't. It doesn't. It looks like a mess. So you're wondering, Sam, why do you like this absolute garbage vehicle? And the answer is very straightforward. I believe that the Pontiac Aztek is the perfect car to have if you are homeless. Now, the Pontiac Aztek was designed to be an off-road vehicle, but it's not. It has front-wheel drive, so you can't take it off-road. It came with standard street tires, not off-road tires. It can't do anything. It doesn't go fast. It's not good, but it made up for this by being absolutely ridiculous. Like, if you're going to be homeless, this is where you want to be, and I'll show you why. First, Pontiac Aztek comes with its own air mattress that fits the specific back of the car. So, like, if you need a place to sleep, bam, you got one. Do you want, like, Wi-Fi in the car, or do you want, like, Bluetooth or basic necessities? Nah. But instead, the center console is a cooler that you could fill with drinks. It comes in and out of the car. That's magical. But, like, are we done? No. No, no, no. This car, hold on, it's not even here. Give me a second. Came with a tent, with a retractable awning. Look at that artistic beauty. Ah. All right, I've been talking about the Pontiac Aztek too much. I'm gonna be honest with you guys. This took a weird turn, but you understand like what I'm going with. Like it makes sense. Cool. Um, we moved on. I needed to explain. This is nothing to do with that. This is a love poem. Ahem. There are a few things in my life that I know for sure, mostly because I'm often unsure of basic things, like where should we be getting food from? How many licks does it take to get to the Tootsie Roll center of a Tootsie Pop? Should I really care about the amount of licks it takes to get to the Tootsie Roll center of a Tootsie Pop? Where are we eating again? Sorry, I listen, I get confused easily and I'm forgetful. So when I say that I'm 100% sure of something, you know it's a big deal. And love, I'm 100% sure about you and I. I want to spend my life with you like lovers do, and I have a plan that I know will work. Let's leave this place and go somewhere warm. Drive chasing the sun from east to west and end up wherever it sets. A life of adventure is what I'm craving. Just you, me, and my 2005 Pontiac Aztek. Yes, I'm still on the Aztek thing. I know this sounds crazy. Trust me, I know, but just hear me out. I don't currently own a 2005 Pontiac Aztek, but I can get one for super cheap. I mean, they made way too many of these, and now they sell for like $3,000, which is nothing when you think of like for a car. But just imagine like us cruising, listening to that stock sound boom and blast as we play some of our favorite CDs, driving down Route 66, going 66 miles per hour because this is not the fastest car. But it's about the journey. And love, we got miles to go. Our custom Pontiac Aztek cooler that came standard with the car, filled with snacks and soda. And we could take turns driving / feeding each other / making shifty eyes at all the people staring with jealousy as we roll by in our bright orange Matchbox machine. And don't worry about taking stuff. We have all the cargo space we could need to hold on to everything that matters. And when the night fades, babe, it could be you and me cuddled close on the air mattress, which also comes standard in the 2005 Pontiac Aztek. We'd lie on our backs and stare up into the American night sky, our eyes wide, the future ahead of us, and all of this can be done safely in our Pontiac Aztec tent with retractable awning, standard with the car. Now I know what you're thinking. This whole thing sounds crazy, but just know that I am crazy for you. And if you don't want to go, then well, listen. I mean, mostly I really just wanted to buy a Pontiac Aztec, so I guess this is where you and I part ways. Um. I'm getting the axe. Okay. All right, then I'm gonna do three. I'm gonna do three. If that's okay. It's okay. I'm gonna do three poems. Um. This poem is called "My ADHD is Not Cute." I was diagnosed with ADHD when I was 7. Um, and it's not a cute experience at all. People always like to pretend it is. So I lost my phone the other day. Um, while cooking dinner for 15 minutes. I found it in the fridge. It's not that uncommon for me. I lost my keys in my hands, my wallet in my pants from 3 days before, and this is not something I'm not used to. My mind has been playing Where's Waldo with itself for years. My body, an unwilling participant, hunting itself for every moment I might have missed. My brain is a maze I struggle to get out of, not a river, but diverging rapids, and I never know where I'll end up after everything. Yet every day, I see random idiots on the internet tell me that ADHD isn't real. It's just something that was made up for pharmaceutical purposes and to make parents feel less shitty. And I hate that. So let me clarify some things for you to understand. My ADHD doesn't make me write. It does make me sit up at night wondering the math for how much sleep it will take for me to get if I was going to fall asleep right now. Okay, right now. And now until it's 2 a.m. My ADHD is not the reason I'm able to problem solve quickly. It is, however, the reason I wasn't allowed to be in the front or back of the line in second grade. It's the reason I've struggled with talking to literally anyone, and the reason I was isolated by teachers for years. My brain is a speaker I could never turn down past blasting an air raid siren constantly going off in the background. My ADHD doesn't make me more social. It just makes it hard to remember names, dates, birthdays, and the fact that I was supposed to be doing something more important right now than writing this poem. I don't know, probably donating blood or something. But I hear morons tell me how my brain works and how it's unfair for me to be held down when all I've ever wanted was to be helped up. I'm already down here counting ceiling tiles and I keep seeing people walk over me, but I never get to go anywhere. I lost my phone the other day, and it took 16 years of therapy, 27 years of practice to not have a mental breakdown and instead get up and find the damn thing just so I could finally write this one poem, only to remember that I was supposed to be doing something else right now, probably donating blood or something. Thank you. Quick statement that I always do at the end of that poem. There is, in fact, a national blood shortage. Please donate to blood if you are capable of doing so. And if you are not, please let other people know that they should donate blood if they're capable of doing so. This poem uh, is called A Tea Party with Death. I invited Death to my 2 o'clock tea party, and this time he actually came to see me. Always polite as he took off his shoes before entering softly into my room. Quietly, Death took a seat between Fluffy Bridges the bunny and the amazing Captain Pete. He chatted politely with all of our guests, wearing my favorite tiara from inside the best treasure chest. Death smiled and giggled and drank his tea neat, and when the party was over, we played hide and seek. When the afternoon faded and the day turned to eve, my new best friend Death told me it was time we should leave. So I grabbed my small hat so I could cover my head and unplugged the machines helping me stay in bed. I got up quite slowly and felt the cold of the floor. Then my friend and I, Death, made our way towards the door. Thank you. And I'm going to end with the title poem, A Candle Regaining Strength. Um, these past few years have been hard for people. Um, and if there's anything I am, it is hopelessly optimistic. Thank you for taking the time to be here with me. And if you're here for Sarah, thank you for taking the time to be here with me, knowing that Sarah's not on the screen right now and that you could be doing things that aren't this. This is a candle regaining strength. The nights have felt so long recently. An unwavering dark sprawled across the sky, covering everything. But today, I saw a light flickering in the distance, a candle regaining strength, fighting against the wind. The sun is rising soon. Morning is coming, and when it does, it will be beautiful. Thank you. Bringing Sarah back in. Hi.
Sam, that was so excellent. It was
Thank
really,
you.
really inspiring. I mean, I've heard these poems quite a few times, but every time that candle regaining strength always hits right in the heart chakra. Um, so I just want to thank everybody for coming to this book launch party, and oh, that was so lovely.
Thank
Um,
you.
Sam's mother is so lucky to have Sam, and her other lovely son and grandbaby.
I like all the nice compliments. I'm just kind of like,
Click,
thank you.
click, 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 click.
Thank
So
you.
you can buy a candle regaining strength at samsdumbface.com, and
SamSdumbface.com.
it is $15. It looks like this. You will get one for yourself at home. You can put it on your own shelves. Um, and yeah, any final comments, Sam?
Um, I think the biggest one is, and always, that first line in the first poem, the last line, to me is one of the most important. Wherever you are, I'm very happy that you're here now. Thank you, first off, for letting me do this. Thank you, Sarah, for going on this crazy adventure with me. Um, as we,
I wouldn't want to be anywhere else.
um, Sarah, take a moment. We got 2 minutes. What events do we have coming up?
So we have coming up next week, next Saturday, we are having one of our first in-person events called Poetry in the Park. So it's going to be a poetry reading, reflection, meditation, and just a collective meet and greet and hike at Homedale Park. So if you are interested in really connecting with nature and um, feeling inspired by what's around you. I know that this spring, for me at least, has been really inspiring. Uh, the nature that's around us, all the super. I was talking to Sam about this, the super bloom of our lives, and also the super bloom of nature coming back alive. I feel like this winter was so long, and so we are now approaching a new season, and I think it should be celebrated. So we are having our Poetry in the Park event, and that's at Homedale Park at 8:30 on the 7th. So if you have any questions about that, we are going to be blasting all of our social media with that in the next week or two, a week or so. And then we're going to be doing our classes in the summer as well. So if you are interested in taking a creative writing class and you don't have much going on this summer, please, I encourage you. It's fun, it's really fulfilling, and you're gonna be surprised at what's inside you that will come out in these classes. And that's what really let's go on right now. I know that we're gonna be down in Cherry Hill over the summer at an event, the Artists and Authors Extravaganza. That's going to be in August. We'll be promoting that from Kim Ross, and so we'll be doing that. And I know that there's going to be some live from the living rooms throughout the summer too, so just keep an eye out for that. And yeah, we have a lot going
Essentially, we're
on.
keeping busy. We're keeping busy.
We're keeping busy. You're going to see our faces. We're going to be, promoting writing and art always, because that's what we do. But just keep an eye out for our events, and I hope to see some of you at our first in person event. So, yeah. And thank you all again for coming. And thank you, Sam, for this beautiful book. And as always, I am so proud of you. And I'm so grateful to be your friend and to do this with you.
This was great. All right. Thank you all so much for being here. If you have questions, comment. I'll respond later. Why
Yeah.
not?
Yeah, and
Um,
please don't hesitate to share our videos and follow us on Facebook, Instagram, uh, to subscribe to our YouTube channel and everything else. I think that's it, Sam. I think we are.
yeah. All right.
That's
Then
it.
we will see everyone later. Goodbye,
Yes.